all the same feelings, and these are not terrorists. These are our brothers.
So when American workers hear directly from Iraqis in a people-to-people direct way, unmediated, uninterrupted by other voices, there's a connection. And people feel that, yes, we do have something in common. Yes, we really are united in a common struggle and a common interest.
And it's important to hear from that community of folk, particularly so that we can come to judgments and decisions that are appropriate and just in the United States.
We have got to come together if we're truly going to stand in unity and solidarity with these workers from Iraq and with the people from Iraq. Bring the troops home now. Stop the war. Come together in unity, and let's begin to bring into existence the peace. God bless you.
There is so much that we could do, and there's so much we've let slip, and not by necessarily people purposely letting it slip, but because so many other events have taken over our lives, and we haven't necessarily built the connections through the work that we do. I think that this, in terms of the responsibility of developing the issue of peace in the trade union movement, is our responsibility politically, organizationally, and personally as well. We can't just say, oh, well, it's up to the union or it's up to this social movement or whatever to do it. It is really, we have to sort of reignite the fires within ourselves on the peace movement. One of the things that Judy Darcy apparently raised yesterday is the question of how busy we get in our lives. And that so we get so consumed by the work of the trade union movement that we're not building necessarily those connections back to our work in the peace movement. And it was maybe clearer to us a number of years ago, and we need to bring that clarity back again. And a suggestion as well by Judy, I think yesterday in the question period, was about going back and looking at reestablishing peace committees. What is it that our unions and federations of labor, our labor councils can do about that? I want to just say, though, on that, we want to make sure, though, that if there's discussion around that, that it's not a matter of we say, oh, well, that's the work of that committee over there, and it's not built into the work of our anti-privatization work or women's work or anti-racism work or whatever it may be, that we need to make sure that those connections are there. I was thinking last night, why not, when we're looking at the work that we do regularly, when we do work now, we have an equality screen essentially. Things don't generally go out of union offices or labor organizations without saying, have we addressed the equality issues that need to be addressed in this? But we don't say at this point, are we addressing the question of how this connects to peace and what our responsibility is? What would happen if we had a peace screen on the work that we do? And we need to connect those dots. I mean, I think it was really important yesterday that people talked about privatization and what it has to do with peace and war and what they have to do with privatization. Because for a lot of our members, they wouldn't necessarily see that. And we are not necessarily drawing that line for them. I think it was important that people, again, in the question period that I was able to listen to yesterday, built the issues, the connections between things like peace and war, the energy issues, the whole question of what's happening in the pulp and paper industry. That's, again, connections that people aren't just going to automatically see because we tend to see things over there. I want to read to you the statement, because Fred Wilson referred to it yesterday. I want to read to you the statement that the Canadian Labour Congress Executive Council adopted in the middle of May. And I think it's a good statement. I think one of our issues is we have to figure out how we tell more people about it. but I'll just read the statement as it is. The Canadian Labour Congress calls for the withdrawal of Canada's troops in Afghanistan and an increase of our commitment to the reconstruction and development of that country. At its regular spring meeting earlier this week, the Executive Council of the CLC commended the courage and bravery of all the men and women serving in Afghanistan. The Executive Council, which brings together the senior leaders of the country's largest unions, along with the presidents of the provincial and territorial federations of labour, adopted a statement that also denounces the fact that our federal government, quotes, has moved beyond the NATO mission of humanitarian relief and peacekeeping to an active combat role in support of the U.S. military mission in Afghanistan. In so doing, our government has put Canadian troops in harm's way in an unprecedented manner. The Executive Council of the Congress does not accept the argument that Canadian presence is intended to bring democracy to the people of Afghanistan, nor do we accept the premise that our presence is intended to put Afghanistan on the road to sustainable development or improve women's equality in that country. And that is why we urge the government to take the necessary steps to ensure the safe and immediate withdrawal of Canadian troops from Afghanistan, increase significantly our resource and financial commitments to UN-led multilateral peacekeeping and humanitarian initiatives, such as needed in Darfur, strengthen developmental aid to Afghanistan so that reconstruction efforts are achieved, and engage civil society in developmental programs fostering good governance and respecting human rights, gender equality, and internationally recognized core labour standards. And finally, ensure any future deployment of Canadian troops is debated and voted on by the representatives of the citizens of Canada in the House of Commons. Thank you.